Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being, if you're subscribed, I appreciate your subscription. And I just, this is a phenomenal platform for me to really share my knowledge and to display my skills and so forth. So anyway, this video, what we're going to be discussing is metabolic flexibility, okay? This has been kind of, I've been noticing it's kind of been a little bit trending. And what's funny is I've already actually talked about it in some of my other videos. So let me just kind of cut to the chase and talk about it. First off, my interpretation of this is it's nothing more than your body's ability to naturally and effectively change substrates. Now, the funny thing is the body already does this. So I think that metabolic flexibility, and this is common, this happens in this health and fitness industry, which by the way is why you come to my channel, because I'm that filter. I'm that expert who can disseminate and decipher truth from myth, or truth from misinterpretation or misrepresentation, right? Now, I'm not saying that I'm right all the time, but that being said, I am an open-minded person in this field to where I continually refine it and kind of reassess, the body of evidence and the state of knowledge. Now, that being said, let's talk about metabolic flexibility. First off, the body naturally does it. Now, it's common that in people who tend to be inactive, okay, a diet that's the standard American diet, which is basically high in processed foods, like highly processed carbs, high in animal products, high in fat, and those kinds of things, and then it's metabolic syndrome. So you associate those things with the individual will tend to be overweight or obese. Okay, they're inactive, they're low fit, so they have a low fitness level, and then their diet is just not the best diet. So those things create metabolic inflexibility. Okay, so the person burns less fat. Okay, so their substrate utilization patterns change. Okay, this has been documented. Now, I saw a video, and this sparked this interest in doing this video, where this fitness, fitness person, expert in the field, she was talking about metabolic flexibility, and she was also kind of connecting it with intermittent fasting. I can see that being the case, but the whole 16-8 window, I just think that we need to be a little bit careful in terms of just jumping on that bandwagon, okay? Here's the reality. If a person eats 3 meals a day and the fasting window is 5 hours, you're getting 15 total hours of fasting. It's kind of like intermittent interval fasting or intermittent fasting interval training, right? So that's why you come to my channel. I guarantee you there's no other video out there as about to say what I'm about to say, and I did not plan this. This actually just came right in my head making this video. So in exercise training we have continuous training, like cardio, where you go 30 minutes straight. Then you have interval training where you do maybe like up, down, up, down. Well, that's what intermittent fasting is, like continuous cardio. You go 16 hours straight fasting, then you have an 8-hour eating window. Well, guess what intermittent fasting interval eating is? It's where you have 3 meals, and then you have a recovery period, 5 hours. Then you have another meal, 5-hour recovery period. Dr. Furman touched on this. In fact, I may attach the graph where it's like the catabolic phase. The 5-hour fasting window is the catabolic phase, where your body burns fat. Then you go into the anabolic phase again, okay, where you eat. He talks about this. Now, that being said, again, this isn't out there. You heard it here first. So you have intermittent fasting, then you have intermittent fasting interval eating, which is your that's kind of a fancy way to label what I just said in terms of the regular 3 meals a day or 4 meals a day, okay? So I prefer to eat every 4 to 6 hours, 4 to 5 hours, sometimes 6, and the minimum is 3 hours. Now, every now and again it may be 2 hours, but it depends on the day, okay? So just generally speaking, it's about a 3 to 5 hour fasting window, all right? Now, some days I'll do intermittent fasting where I ride an overnight fast, and it's like a 16-hour fast or a 14 or a 12, right? I think this whole 16 to 8-hour window, it just works for people because it basically sets them on a rigid schedule. And the reality is what we eat changes that. So you think you're going to improve your metabolic flexibility by going on a 16-8 intermittent fasting, yeah, initially, but what we can change that. So if you eat a meal that's going to spike your insulin levels, then you're taking yourself out of that fat burning mode. And then you have the ketogenic crowd who talk about being metabolically flexible because they say everyone who's overweight or people who are eating carbs are like burning sugar and not fat. That's nonsense. And let me tell you, it's called back-end fat burning, back-end fat loss. When you work out with a high intensity, and if you're loaded with carbs, you reduce your glycogen stores. I believe there's an inverse relationship between glycogen store level and fat burning level. So if your glycogen stores are high, okay, you're going to have to burn through that. I think of it as like a candle. The wick is the carbs, the wax is the fat. If you're fully carb loaded or glycogen levels are high, you have a long wick. So you've got to burn through that wick to get to the wax. If you're training in a glycogen reduced state or depleted, or first thing in the morning, your glycogen levels will be lower. Okay, and this all is situational. It depends on how many carbs you've been eating in the previous 24 to 48 hours. Okay, that impacts it as well as your training and how you burn through those carbs. It's a constant flux. Okay, it's called homeostasis. All right, so basically when you have lower carbs, you have a shorter wick. Now you can get to the wax a lot sooner, the fat. Okay. It's a science, folks. Now, that being said, this woman who is talking about metabolic flexibility, she's got some abs, but she always has abs. She always has abs. And what I see is, I call it, or I understand this as fat burning pattern or fat loss pattern. You have some people who have lean arms all the time or lean abs all the time. Tom Benito, fat loss expert, he gave a great analogy. It's like a swimming pool. The deep end is your stubborn fat. That's the place where you lose it last. The shallow end of a pool is the place where you lose it first. So if we were to pull the plug on a pool, the shallow end would drain out first and the deep end would drain out last. Well, this woman has lean abs all the time. That's her shallow end of the pool. She's not that lean. Are you kidding me? I've noticed, her face looks bloated. Her hips and thighs are kind of, they're not very lean. This is where understanding comes into play. Okay, being lean is not just selective body part lean. It's total body lean, and it has to do with your total body fat percentage. And there's a correlation. I like to look at a person's waist measurement. I have standards, and these standards are not mine. These are standards from the organization that I'm certified with. Okay, as well as many others. Okay, so for men, the waist circumference needs to be under 40. That's a lax, minimal standard, but ideally under 35. For women, it needs to be under 35, ideally under 30. Now, there are other charts that talk about how height impacts that. I think it's like you take your height and you divide it by your waist or something in some unit and you give a certain, so that's another way to maybe standardize it according to height, okay? So, a little off subject, but the point is that metabolic flexibility is, it's being misused in the fitness industry, okay? And the keto crowd, they talk about being metabolically flexible because they've been creating metabolic inflexibility. How? They're losing the ability to burn carbs. Okay, so now it's an inverse, it's an opposite. So yeah, you're becoming more flexible at fat oxidation and fat burning, but you're losing your ability to burn carbs. Okay, that's why there's been anecdotal mentions online and so forth about glucose intolerance, how they have a higher fasting blood sugar level or their ability to tolerate a glucose load is diminished. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. And I made a video on this, sugar loss versus fat loss. I think it's metabolic flexibility is the ability to kind of do, like I said at the beginning of this video, to do both. Okay, so I believe that it's a combination of, it's pretty simple, folks. This is not very scientific. It is, but basically clean eating. I currently believe in a nutritarian diet. Okay, it could be vegan or not. And essentially, a nutritarian diet, what does that mean? It basically means virtually no processed high glycemic carbohydrates. It is controlling the carbohydrate caveat that the keto diet was basically developed and based on. The ketogenic diet was, in my opinion, based on the failure of the government with the Department of Agriculture, the food guide pyramid. We talk about the pasta, the rice, the bread. Yeah, I get that. That was a mistake. It's not a good idea. Those are processed high glycemic carbohydrates. The nutritarian diet focuses on slow burning carbs that are low glycemic and low glycemic load. Okay, we're talking about unprocessed carbs like fruits and vegetables. We're talking about, if it's going to be bread, it's going to be like the better breads, like the ones that are not even the flourless breads. The best ones out there, like manna bread and Ezekiel bread. Those are the ones that actually don't have flour, and they're actually like whole grain. That's actually whole grain. And there's another test I do with breads. If you think a bread's good, if you squeeze it and it just like literally like folds up in your hand, it's not a good bread. I don't care what the ingredients say. It's not coarse enough, and that's going to break down rapidly in your body. If you squeeze a bread and it's got a nice firm coarse, it's kind of got a lot of resistance, that's a good bread. That's a whole grain, that's an intact whole grain. Okay? And I like the fact that Ezekiel bread and manna bread are typically frozen. That's an indicator of the fact that it doesn't have many preservatives, because they wouldn't stand, you know, the cold is acting as a natural preservative. Okay, so again, I'm going to end this video. Lots of information, but again, so next time you hear about metabolic flexibility, it's not some simple like turn on fat loss, turn off sugar burning stuff, whatever. Your body's constantly in a flux of it. And the way to regulate that is you have to have situations where you want to kind of mix it up. That's why I have a mixed methods approach. I don't train fasted all the time. I don't intermittent fast all the time. I want to retain my body's ability to burn carbs. It's a good thing, because you're going to teach your body to handle insulin. You're going to teach your body to have better insulin responsiveness. You're going to teach it to burn sugar better. And then when I do intermittent fasting, or I do fasted training, now I'm kind of training to burn fat. And here's the thing: you don't have to believe what I say, but you can't deny my results. I stay lean all the time, and I'm not just like arm lean. I'm like literally total body lean all the time. Okay, and it's not like a sickly, unhealthy lean. I know what my body fat is. It's whatever it is. I don't care if it's 6%. I don't care if it's 13%. It doesn't matter. It's still a healthy body fat. And my waist is under 30. Pretty much, well, all the time actually. My diet's changed. It's gotten so much better, and just overall my training has gotten a lot more refined and focused. So anyhow, fist bump. Thanks for watching this video, and if I have time, I'll put some studies at the bottom of this video. I'm not going to guarantee that, but basically most of the things I say were based on studies that I've seen and I've read and my experience over time. Okay. So don't believe the hype when somebody's talking about metabolic flexibility and how it's like intermittent fasting improves it. It doesn't improve it. It just maybe forces a person to stop eating so that that way they can have a longer fasting window. I mean, it's just, if you eat a clean diet and you eat soundly and you have longer intra-meal fasting windows, so you're eating 3 to 4 meals a day instead of eating like 4 to 5 meals a day, okay, you'll be burning fat. And if you have the right kind of foods that don't spike insulin as much, or again, exceptions to the rule, this is situational. If you're going to work out with a high intensity, then yeah, you can have a higher glycemic carbohydrate. You can add dried fruit or some natural sweetener to whatever your meal is, because that's a strategic situation where when you work out, you're going to prevent a blood sugar spike, and you're going to improve your body's ability to burn carbohydrates. And from a performance perspective, it's actually a good idea, because it's going to allow you to have carbs on board, and it's going to optimize the situation, okay? So you're going to have a front load of exogenous carbohydrates, which is going to spare your glycogen stores so you can perform longer and stronger, all right? Boom. Thank you for watching. Tune in next time.